Okay, now on to social action theory. A theory first came by Max Weber at the turn of the 20th century. The terms I'm going to use now could be also applicable to the fundamentals, if you like, of interpretivism, phenomenology, symbolic interactionism. These are all kind of clustered around the agency approach. Now, we've talked about two structuralist approaches, right? Looking at functionalism and Marxism, and I made a quick mention of feminism. Their structure in that they see norms, values, status, and role as being universal, that is the same. And that culture, by and large, is the same for all, and that we are all socialized to the one culture, the one way of being through social institutions such as the family, mass media, and so on. Functionalists, two key concepts: the value consensus. Value consensus is really kind of talking about culture, and it's talking about the fact that we agree to our culture, it's a shared culture, and it's important that we have the same culture that unifies us. And it's seen as a positive thing, and that this is fair, and it's certainly what it should be. The body analogy explains how social institutions are very important for maintaining in a complex society the norms and values, status and role, the culture of our society. Marxism, quite similar, although very different in part. Marxist idea is that, like value consensus, the word ideology is talking about our culture. Unlike value consensus, it is not consensual, it is imposed on us by the evil capitalists who run our society for their benefit alone. The superstructure, again, like the body analogy, explains how social institutions transmit this ideology, bourgeois ideology you could call it, and that the bulk of us are hoodwinked by this to believe what is unfair and unjust is fair. Feminists, in that they are structural, when you talk about patriarchy and the idea of a male-dominated culture. So patriarchy links with the idea of ideology and value consensus. It's different words for essentially the same thing. A male-dominated society where social institutions such as the family, mass media, education, criminal justice system, etc., enshrine or go their best to ensure that there is subjugation of women. These three approaches are all structural in that they see a oneness. They're describing it from different points of view, but essentially they're describing the same thing, one singular identity. They focus on the macro, that is the large institutions. They see us as individuals having little or no agency or ability to change the social world or meanings in the social world around us. Now, moving on to the agency point of view, which is, again, I need to stress this. These groups of sociologists are on the structural side of the scale and agency is on the other. It is a scale where they're more or less, as we go down, people believe more or less or in structure and agency. Now, agency is the idea that we have as individuals free will, and we have the ability to determine our own outcomes, meaning we are not sausages, if you like, being produced out of a sausage making the scene. We are independent and we have ourselves interacting with the world, and there is something to us. We interpret meaning rather than have it given. There is a sense of us in there. Now, Max Weber famously said he was fighting the ghost of Marx in his writings. he is setting himself up to go against the structural viewpoint, and it's quite deliberately that's the case. He turns the whole thing, this approach, the agency approach, turns the whole idea of structure and the way of looking society on its head, in that the Marxists, the functionalists, and to some degree the feminists would have us believe that we are controlled, our mind, our actions, we are kind of like puppets to society, we are created by them. Agency puts us in the driving seat. It says that we are in control of our own destiny. There is such thing as something going on between our ears, which determines our own outcomes. Now, in particular, determines meaning. Meanings are very important to the agency approach or social action theorists. That is, the meanings that agents, social actors place on the world, which is, if I can explain. So if you see this thing called culture, you see instead of it being given and it being the same, that in each social situation, there is a level of negotiation on meaning. So for instance, and we spoke about earlier, the norms and values that make up the fatherhood role. From the agency point of view, it would say these are interpreted by individuals in different ways. And the way that we are fathers, mothers, daughters, sisters, brothers, whatever social role that you're talking about, will vary in case to case. We have a stock of interpretations, like a shoe shop. We have the shape and we have the available to us, the norms, values, status, role, etc., the cultural delivery. But as individuals, we have the ability to negotiate meaning so that in each social circumstance, we come together to gain an understanding. And because the norms, values, status, and roles can be negotiated in this way, they are different in different social situations. In other words, there is diversity, not uniformity. There are very different ways of interpreting what's going on. This denies scientific or positivist approach and talks about interpretation. This denies the fact that you can measure in terms of a quantifiable, countable, observable thing. Remember, the scientists are looking at what's happening on the outside, and they are kind of taking a macro approach. This is the structuralist, the positivist I'm talking about. Agency approach says because individuals have self-determination, can determine that their own and negotiate the reality around them, it changes all this. What is more important for study than the operational social institutions is the individuals who operate, what thought processes, what they're thinking, what goes on inside. And in this way, they are a very different kettle of fish.